Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a totally fascinating historical puzzle. We're talking about a man who is highly praised in some of the most sacred texts in the world, and yet, his true identity remains a complete mystery. I'm talking about the figure known as Prophet Zul Kifl. He's celebrated as this absolute paragon of patience and righteousness, but the actual historical details of his life? They're completely shrouded in mystery. I mean, who was he really? Was that even his real name? Well, today, we are going to unpack the ancient clues and the incredible, almost unbelievable narrative attached to his legacy. Okay, let's dive into this by starting with the best clues we have, which are actually hidden right inside his name. Because, as it turns out, Zul Kifl might not be a birth name at all. Instead, it's a highly specific description of his character and his actions. Literally translated, Zul Kifl means the possessor of the fold or the possessor of a double requital or portion. And you know, this wasn't just some convenient everyday label. It was an earned title. It signified that this was a man who gave double the required worship, prayers, and good deeds. Basically, whatever was expected of him, he went way above and beyond, multiplying his efforts just for the sake of pleasing his creator. There's even another interpretation that suggests, as a prophet, he literally bore double the responsibility of a normal person. Now, here's the wild part. Despite the immense respect associated with his name, the undeniable, concrete facts about him are incredibly scarce. In fact, everything we definitively know about him from divine scripture comes from just two very specific mentions in the Quran. And these verses, well, they don't give us a biography, but they absolutely give us a profound endorsement of his character. The first mention is found in Surah Al-Anbiya. It reads, "And we bestowed the same favor upon Ishmael, Idris, and Zul Kifl, for they were all steadfast." Notice the VIP company he's keeping here. He's listed right alongside heavyweights like Ishmael and Idris. And look at that defining characteristic highlighted right at the end, steadfast. That word is the absolute key to understanding exactly who he was, as you're going to see in just a minute. The second mention is over in Surah Sad. It says, "And remember Ishmael, Elisha, and Zul Kifl, all were of the best." The verses right after this one promise that an excellent retreat with everlasting gardens and abundant rewards awaits the God-fearing. So once again, he's explicitly ranked among the best. But notice how the text leaves his exact earthly identity totally ambiguous. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how scholars have debated his exact status for centuries, mostly because of those limited biographical details. Was Zul Kifl a Nabi, a prophet of Allah, or was he a highly righteous saint? There's even this really prominent theory suggesting that Zul Kifl might be the biblical prophet Ezekiel. But while it's a super fascinating connection, the historical sources confirm that this link remains completely unsubstantiated. We just can't say for sure. So, to truly understand how this man earned his title, we have to look at an incredible narrative provided by the renowned scholar Imam Ibn Jarir. He narrated that Zul Kifl was not a prophet, but a remarkably righteous man. And our story actually starts not with him, but with an aging prophet named Ilyasa, who you might know as Elisha. Ilyasa was growing old and desperately needed to appoint a successor to help guide the Israelites. But he didn't just need anyone. He needed someone with a perfectly calm demeanor and a totally clear mind. Ilyasa gathered his companions and laid out the rules of the game. He declared that his replacement had to meet three incredibly extreme conditions. Number 1, he must fast year-round during the day. Number 2, he must remember Allah and prayer throughout the entire night. And number 3, he must never, ever lose his temper. Think about that combo for a second. Fasting all day and praying all night guarantees utter, total physical exhaustion. And in that exact state of complete depletion, you are forbidden from ever showing anger. Well, when Ilyasa announced these seemingly impossible conditions, a relatively unknown man stood up. Actually, historical accounts note this was a man held in contempt by the people, kind of an underdog. He offered himself for the job, claiming he met all three conditions. Naturally, Ilyasa didn't believe him and rejected him on the spot. But a few days later, Ilyasa asked the group again. Everyone remained seated, except for this exact same unknown man. Seeing his incredible persistence, Ilyasa finally caved and appointed him to serve as his deputy. But hey, taking the oath is one thing, right? Living it is a whole other story. Ilyasa wanted to truly test this new deputy's willpower, so he asked people to try and provoke him. They all tried, and they all failed. The man was completely unshakable. That is, until the ultimate saboteur arrived on the scene. Satan, Iblis himself, stepped forward and offered his services to Al-Yassis, saying, "Leave him to me, I will take care of him." The tension here is just palpable. The master of deception has just made it his own personal mission to break this man's vow. To really understand Iblis's strategy here, you have to look at the man's daily routine, which honestly is beautifully relatable. Because he fasted all day and prayed all night, he had exactly one tiny window of rest, a short afternoon nap. That tiny sliver of sleep was his entire lifeline. I mean, we all know how cranky we get when we just miss an hour of sleep at night. Now imagine literally zero sleep at night and fasting all day. His survival, his sanity, and his ability to keep his temper hinged entirely on that single afternoon nap. And Iblis, he knew exactly where to strike. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because Iblis didn't wage a war of grand, fiery miracles. No. He waged a grueling, multi-day psychological war directly against the man's sleep schedule. He basically designed a 3-day timeline of escalating mundane annoyances solely to make a sleep-deprived man snap. Let's break down these relentless tactics. First, Iblis disguised himself as an old, tortured man and knocked on the door right as the precious nap was starting. He then spun this endless, rambling story of injustice that ate up the entire rest period. The man, keeping his cool, just told the old man to come to court the next day. But the next day, Iblis totally ghosts him, doesn't show up. Instead, he waited until the afternoon nap time to bang on the door again, claiming his enemies backed out of his settlement. By the third day, the absolutely exhausted man told his family, "Do not let anyone in." So what did Iblis do? He literally forced his way into the house and started banging on the man's bedroom door. So the crucial point is, after days of zero sleep, constant fasting, grueling night prayers, blatant deception, and a literal home invasion just to ruin his one moment of rest, the man never once lost his temper, not even a little bit. He remained perfectly calm. Iblis threw absolutely everything he had at him: manipulation, exhaustion, total frustration, and the man's patience remained entirely unbroken. He passed the ultimate, seemingly impossible test. And this brings us right back to where we started our whole investigation. Imam Ibn Jarir concluded that the actual birth name of this incredibly patient man remains totally unknown to history. Zul Kifl wasn't what his parents named him. It was the legendary title he earned for surviving this exact test. He became the possessor of the double portion because he carried a double burden and exhibited double the patience of an ordinary human being. The story of Zul Kifl is an absolute masterclass in emotional regulation and spiritual endurance. And honestly, it forces us to look in the mirror. In our modern lives, we lose our minds over traffic, a slow internet connection, or, a mildly annoying email. But think about this ancient parable. Could you keep your temper if your only rest, your absolute lifeline to sanity, was deliberately and constantly stolen from you? It's a profound question to leave you with today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this incredible story of steadfastness stays with you long after we're done here.